Welcome to season 6 of the Breakthrough Show, Breakthroughs Around the World. Conversations with 40 guests from 40 different countries, acknowledging our similarities, honoring our differences, and celebrating our connection. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, the creator of the Breakthrough Show Network. For season 6, episode 6, I'm so excited to welcome another face to the show today. It was really important for me as I sat down to create this season of the show to be intentional about including Native people. Through the last 5 seasons of the show, the vast majority of our guests have been from the United States or Canada. And so I knew that for this particular series of Breakthroughs Around the World, it was important for me to dig in a little bit to Native culture and history. Our guest today is a business development strategist, musician, and LinkedIn Live host here to represent Wei Wai Kum First Nations Canada. Please welcome Darren D Roo Sprinkle. Welcome, Darren.
Hey, good morning, Kʷakʷala. Yoda nugwa Kwankianis, nugwa Darren Sprinkle ugwaka, Quinukin class, Liqვის Gukulin Lach Madawa, Washington. Hey, Kʷakʷala. That's my native greeting. I jumbled it in the middle, but you'll never know. And so thank you for having me. I said I'm in Madawa, Washington. I'm from the Liqვის people. And I am learning Liqʷala, which is the language, and I'm so grateful to be representing my people. Although I'm not with them, I'm remote. I'm in the United States. I cannot wait to be back up with them, hopefully the end of this year.
I love it. I love it. Well, as I mentioned, I'm really excited about digging a little bit into Native culture because it's not something I feel like we talk about enough. Even though that is what our, Canada and United States are founded on, obviously, of those people being here first. And so I would love to know, let's just start out with something fun and tell me what you love about the Native culture.
Oh man. The most fun I think I've had as a youth was with those people on the beach of Clamatau, Campbell River at Potlatch. What I love about those people is it doesn't matter whose kid you are. When I would walk down the street, I'd be invited in for a meal. It was just the care and, and the acknowledgement that we were a greater family, and people don't really do that really anymore, in a neighborhood per se. And that's what it felt like, being in a neighborhood, but with people that were interested in, if you weren't misbehaving. That's the swing side in that culture. If you're misbehaving, you could catch a swat by anybody's parent or adult. That was just the way it was. And so you were not to act wily out in town because grandma would know. So I spent summers up there, for a week to 3 weeks at a time as a kid. And just the love that, that I have and was felt by those people was immense.
I love that. I think we're sort of in a different time now. I've shared before about where I grew up, not Native culture at all, but where I grew up, we had like block parties all the time, and we would, rope off the parking lot, and everybody would bring their grills out and little pools for the kids, and we would do these whole big things. Nobody does that anymore.
Not at all. No. When I moved to the Seattle area, when my parents split up, I lived about 15 minutes out of downtown Seattle. And, maybe 4 neighbors, I knew who they were and knew who I was. And it was lock everything you have, hold everything tight. And, I just never fit in there, and I never liked that
Yeah.
mindset or that lifestyle. It
Yeah.
took me a long time to get away from that. Like this year, I'm 43. I just left it,
Yeah.
you know.
What do you think is something that maybe is a misconception that people have about Native people, or something maybe that they don't know, um, or maybe even about living or being a part of a reservation?
Well, I guess the first thing is the reservation is not our land.
Mm,
It's not even where we're from. You know, it's in most corners of the United States. Right now, I'm in Wanapum territory, and these poor people were shoved around. And you can look up the nuclear disaster we have at Hanford around here, and that was their fishing land. And now it's a nuclear disaster that will be ongoing for years and years.
wow.
And so, you know, the old way is that life is cyclical and that we live seasonally, and it's been replaced by this non-cyclical colonialized idea that profit must happen at any rate, and we must move in that direction. Um, I think I got off track there on the question, but yeah, what
No,
was the original
it
question?
was fine. No, I was just asking if there was any preconceived notions or anything like that about, or misconceptions that people might have about Native people in general, or the reservation life or anything like that.
Sure. I mean, so the reservation life, you know, even family members from the white side of my family say awful things about reservation life.
Mm,
They've never visited our reservation, but they have opinions about their alcoholics and drug addicts, and
mm,
there's probably beer cans. This is things I heard from.
wow.
I won't say who they are, and you know, people very close to me that were in charge of me,
Mm,
and they would say there's just probably filth and debris, and you don't want to be there. Even to this day, they're discouraging me from moving back, and
right.
because of their preconceived notions, and what their idea of what culture and society is. You go to school, you have a good job, you do nothing exciting for 40, 50 years, you retire and bore yourself to death.
Yeah.
I'm uninterested in that, but that is the way
Yeah.
I was brought up. I broke the mold. My brothers and sisters kind of tried that. I never could fit in.
Hmm.
And so, one thing that people should understand about the native mind is that it's a slower speech. And so, back in the earlier parts of the United States history, you hear a lot about the idea of the dumb Indian, and
Hmm.
what that was a slowness of speech. Really, it's an intentionality about each word I'm giving you. And then also, I'll never speak over you. I wish I could say that I'm like that, Jessica. You know me, I'm a little. But
Oh,
when we're in council or we're in a meeting or we're in a format like this, we never are allowed to show disrespect. And that's not like you'll be shamed or anything. It's like an internal, like you don't allow the disrespect
mhm.
outside of yourself. It can happen in here. That's acceptable. And we acknowledge everyone is like that. But you don't let it pass your lips or your face. You just let it be. You let that person have space.
Yeah.
And you can just surf any person's Facebook and find that people won't allow people to have space, even about an opinion about one thing. There's always someone chasing the other side of it, and so the slowness about the Native or First Nations life is cyclical with nature, and
Mhm.
nature is not fast, nor is it
Right.
predictable. So what that means is you must slow down and you must have your eyes up and you must pay attention to the birds and when the fish come and when the tide goes out because that's your clock,
Mm.
that's your windmill, that's your battery source, it's everything. And so I'm an inventor mind. I create a lot of things. I never get lost. I can be anywhere on earth, and I feel like those things are just kind of part of that. Because as I've gotten older, I see more family members on that side that have the exact same thing I do. And
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of them do struggle with mental health, including myself. A lot of them have struggled with addiction, like myself. I kind of stopped counting, maybe 5, 6 years sobriety,
Congratulations.
from pain medication, all that mess, and alcohol, and so you know, what I did really that sobered my soul was slowing down. And our friend Dorothy Oger rattled my cage when I first met her with the For Love poem. And that drove me back. That's really what started me in language
Yeah.
back in 2020.
Yeah.
And 2020 was a slow year. It was a year for me to be not harassed. I was no CEO. I was not in charge of anybody for once. And I watched the birds. I played my guitar. I went outside every day. And I believe that if all of us did that, we might hold some space for what happens outside of ourselves. But everybody's just so focused on the screen and the phone, and they
Yeah.
forget that we're on this amazingly beautiful peppered world of gems around every corner, and it's
Yeah.
not on your phone.
Right. Right.
There's-
Absolutely.
That's a fragrance of what is good on our phone,
Yeah.
and I want to actually smell the fragrance these days.
Yeah. I hope that people are watching. Please use your phone or your computer to watch the show, and then go outside after the show and get some nature. I would love to. I want to get into a little bit of your story as well, but before we go to break, I wanted to ask you about the interaction between tribes, because this is something that I've always been curious about. What that interaction is like between tribes, and is there a different kind of interaction between tribes in the United States and Canada, or is it just tribes everywhere? Like, what does that look like?
I would equate it with like being in Europe,
Mm.
like post-Soviet Union, and you have all these pockets of culture everywhere, and then they're like, wait, we're all Russian? Right? And everybody goes, that was a thing back in the
Yeah.
90s. It was everybody was Russian, and they said that. But if you get to know people, no, there's Ukrainian people and Polish people and all these people from that block that got kind of lumped in. And so they're very different culturally, yet they've lived in the same place for thousands of years. And that's very similar to the native culture. Now, the United States calls native populations tribes. In Canada, they call them bands. We all use the term nations. We all have different aspects of how grand that nation is and how many other bands or tribes are part of it. We're a fairly small group. We're in Campbell River. We're in Cape Much, which is right across the bay. And then we're part of the greater Kʷakʷala Nation, which is most of the island, and then part hops over to the Vancouver side up north a little bit. And there's a historical lesson to where there was a flood about 3,000 years ago, to where Wei Wai Kum, which was our leader back then, banded these canoes together. Now, these were all different families. They weren't all, there were 3 brothers, but different families, because they didn't intermarry wives and cousins in that. It was always you go to another family and marry their family. And that was meant to be like a joining and a coming across, and to learn something different and to be different. And there was always a give and take. There's always a give and take, in that regard, when you cross bounds. We've been a warrior culture. We've been to battle. We've fought other tribes. There are certain people in the United States that like to say, well, Native people had slaves as well, and look at them. It was a much different format. I'm not saying slavery in any regard is good, but
Right.
when you go historically and you look at what happened with any kind of a war, is there's population divide. And
Right.
the difference is these people were allowed within the family dynamic. They lived and they were not abused. They were fed. They were part of a system. They were part of it, even though they were technically what we call in the U.S. a slavery scenario. They weren't allowed to leave and all of that. But it wasn't like colonialism where you go out and you remove all resources and then enslave the population, remove those people. Once you remove them, you control everything about them. Right? That's totally. And then now I profit off of that and create my whole new company or United States or Canada or whatever off of the back of any population. So it started, with the natives, and then they removed it from the African population and put them here in the same regard to keep the nation so that it had money. That's the difference between the cultural slavery of the Pacific Northwest that you might read about that happened in Seattle and all the way up to our island.
It's interesting just hearing about all this and talking a little bit about it, because I remember being in school and you kind of look back as an adult, and when you have these conversations and go, wow, they really didn't teach us much of anything at all. Like, we learned about Thanksgiving, Pocahontas, Sacagawea, like nothing at all. Then I grew up in Groton, Connecticut, which is right near two really big reservations. You have Mohegan Sun and Foxwoods casinos that were built up on those reservations, and just like it's a huge community there. But I never really knew anybody that was really involved with reservation life. And I just remember going to a reservation growing up, and you see the outfits, you would see the big, the feathers and the whole outfit. And then they talked about eating deer. I remember that very clearly, and using all of the deer and all of this, which is as it's hard for me now because I don't eat meat at all.
Vegetarian.
Talk about that, but it was, that's all I remember. Like, I don't recall getting into a lot of these things that you're talking about at all. And so that's partly why I'm fascinated and I want to have these conversations this season. So I appreciate you sharing about all of those things, but I also want to get into a little bit of your story and why you're even making this effort to reconnect back to your culture. Breakthroughs are about more than you might think. They're about discovering who you are, digging deep, reaching to the core of your soul. They're about healing yourself, understanding your beliefs, creating a ripple effect. And it's not just those initial moments that matter. It's about using them to bring more joy into our own lives and the lives of others. It's about having fun, letting loose, enjoying every moment life has to offer. It's about finding a safe space. It's about creating connection. Join us each and every day for exclusive programming, special events, and a community to call home, where we invite you to explore, change the way you look at and live your life, and go beyond the breakthrough. So we ask you, are you ready? We'll see you online at thebreakthroughshow.com. I know that Dorothy's poem for love had something to do with that, but what was it that made you really go, okay, I need to go back and embrace these roots and start on this journey?
This is something I've been trying to do as I matured as an adult, sort of outside of my family, really. At 13 years old, my uncle Bill would take me under his wing, and he's a master carver. He builds totems and masks, all kinds of
Wow.
ceremonial things. And when I would go up there, it was like, you can come in my truck, but shut up. Don't say anything. And I was like, because I was a chatty kid, and everyone knew it. And I'd ask him all the questions about native life and boat life and fishing and all this stuff, and he'd just be like, nope, just get in the truck. And we do this every year because again, I was in Seattle, and I'd come up during the summer, and I just remember him driving around the town, and the respect and honor he had for every person, and the sort of calmness of life and the joy in the art that he had every day. And he was no longer fishing every day at this point in his life. He was carving. And he started me to draw. This is, what side? Over here, that's one of my first drawings of a moon mask I've done. I just put it up because I'm starting to draw again. I'm recovering from surgery. When I was 16, he got me my first tattoo across the street. I don't know if you can see it with the light, but it's a raven.
Wow.
And it's a terribly done tattoo. It was $60. And so, but I asked him to draw something to put on my arm, and he said, absolutely not. You will draw the thing for your arm. And it was like a coaching and a pushing me in a way. And ever since I left that, I've always wanted more of that. And I chased a life of business and military and I don't know what. And I never realized that at any point I could go, guess what? I'm done with this craziness that everyone else likes doing. And I can go to this place, and maybe I don't know how to carve, but I can do something in an artistic, softer way. And that's always been a call, and I never knew I could do it until this year. And first time I had the support of my wife in that way, because I never brought it up. I never thought it was a possibility.
Yeah, I'm interested to know. I know that you've got your native side of your family, and then you have white side of your family as well. And what has the process been like of getting reacquainted with that native side? Because that's something that I'm curious about too. Like if you walk away, if someone was to ever walk away from that part of their family, if they have different sides of their family like you do, and then they wanted to come back, like what does that even look like for a person? Do you find that people are welcoming in your desire to reconnect with that side of your life?
I'll say it's been difficult, but yes. It wasn't me that they saw running from the reservation. I think it was that generation before me. And if you look back at what happened with the residential school system that beat upon our grandparents so hardly, that was cut your hair and take you from the family system. They were not allowed to use language. They were beaten. And many children we're finding out were murdered at these schools. Thousands actually, learning of those things. And then you see this generation that doesn't want to go back there, that tells me don't go there. That's the hardest thing, because I have such a deep calling and purpose there. And I'm like, how could you just not see it? How would you rather live in this big city, which to me feels plastic and not real? And going to the mall seems phony. I could never want to do that again. I'd rather just do anything else. And so coming back, I started reaching out, and I was not received that. I wouldn't say negatively. Some people were grateful for the conversation, but it wasn't like, let's keep talking. I can't wait till you get up here. Until like a year later, I think what they have seen is a lot of people say, I'm ready to get out of this and come back, and then they never do.
Right.
A lot of us never make it back there because we go, I can't afford it. I have to make this certain amount. I have to do this job over here, and as if that was more important than having life.
Right.
And so I had to stop caring about what anybody thought, knowing that in purpose, I'm just going to dive in and fall back into the culture because it's calling my name, with a period at the end. And I'm just like, ah. Oh. So I started learning the language. And when I started learning the language, there was more of, I would say, an open arms. I'm getting some more random messages from family members through Facebook, which I don't typically use, that are saying, wow, I see your mom in your face and I haven't seen her in 30 years. And, those kind of things. And so I know once I'm there, I know who I am and I know where my purpose is. And whether or not they accept me at first, it'll be fine in the end, even if it takes 5 years, because what I'm bringing with me is a blessing for them. It's this studio I'm sitting in, and this recording gear I've invested heavily in is not for me. It's for this language revitalization. My video stuff, all my 4K footage I've been working on is all for background stuff for more of this. And so people often don't get me, Jessica. You can tell just by, our interaction. I'm often misunderstood. And as I get older, I'm more okay with that and say, this is who I am. And that's my purpose here, to be the wild card, to shake the tree, whatever. I'm being more received as I go.
Yeah. Some of us are just supposed to do that. I think even my own realization the last couple of years has been, I tend to be this person that I like to show you not just both sides of the coin, but the edge of the coin and, where it was made and all of it, the stuff that people don't typically dig into. And a lot of times that's misunderstood as, she supports XYZ, or she believes in this, or this is her platform or whatever. And it's not about that. It's just about, I'm that person that I want everybody to see that there's so much more to things. And that's not always necessarily received very well, to show those different parts. But one of the things that we talk about often on this show is, there's this misconception that you have a breakthrough moment and then you're done. And then that's it. Like you've arrived. And one of the things that we talk about is this continual learning in a journey that we take throughout our lives. And so in knowing that we have all of those breakthrough moments, that we have several moments, what do you think has been one of your biggest moments that you've experienced in this journey to go back home?
Well, I would say the biggest breakthrough that has been eye-opening was getting my eyesight back and not being able to get out into the outer world outside of my home. And my eyesight came back so quickly, beginning of, I guess it was 2020, January of 2020. And the first walk was with my wife with all these therapeutic glasses on my head and this walking stick, and I was terrified. And then there's like 2 weeks later, I'm out in nature and feeling amazing, and I'm fully eye opened. And at that point, it was, I can make whatever choice now in life. I was just ready for life again. It didn't have anything to do with being native at that point. That was just being human. And I think you remove any one of us from any side of our sensitivity and then you give it back. It's like it's so overwhelming.
Right.
I could cry right now because daily I still try. If the sun is rising or setting, I'm watching. If the birds are out, I'm watching. And those things are what felt and drew me back to the island. You know, the first fact I heard was, "Are you kidding me? They have just bald eagles by the hundreds, like chickens? Are you serious?" Because I had been walking around and trying to see if I have some eagle feathers here, but they just started falling from the sky. This is a hawk. And so being in nature, allowing myself to be present, I started finding, and I don't say finding, given eagle feathers everywhere. I have a box. I probably have 120 by now. And then when
Wow.
I moved out here, like, I know you're a vegetarian and understand that I'm no hunter. The
Yeah.
animals you see in my life have been delivered. This bird was dropped by an eagle to my
Wow.
daughter. And so now it's sitting here in the studio, and we processed it as a gift for another tribe, for here the Wanapum people who just lost their leader about 10 days ago, Rex. But so the physical eye opening, and then going out into nature, and then being addicted to going into nature, whether it felt terrible or not anymore, I wanted the rain to hit my face now. I wanted to feel cold. I was so sick of being in the bedroom. And for those that don't, I had migraines for almost daily, 24/7 for about 3 years plus. And I tried to work through all of that. So I would get in the car,
Yeah.
I drive about 5 blocks, pull over, vomit, get in the car, drive the rest of the way to work, and I'd pull over 5, 6 times driving into Seattle because I couldn't see where I was going. It was so much pain and so much misery, and I was so full of rage. I don't get that when I'm in the trees and when I'm walking,
Yeah.
or when I'm falling into my purpose. I do get that when I try to do things for money these days. It ruins everything for me.
Yeah. I was going to ask you if the reconnection, I don't want to say rediscovery, reconnection with your heritage and native part of your life, if that has, you think, facilitated your healing. Because I know you mentioned being an addict, you mentioned mental health struggles, you've mentioned physical things you've gone through. Do you think that because for me, the reason I'm asking this is because I've had all of these health challenges throughout my life, and the farther away I get from like who I am, the worse the worse off I seem to get. But the more I try to lean into that instinctual, like, this is who I am, this is my purpose, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, the more I seem to move forward health wise. What has your experience been?
I have the fortunate seat to have received healing and to be on the outside of it. And I'm recovering from surgery, so I'm talking to you in pain. Yeah, it's been chronic for about a year, but I'm on the outside of that.
Yeah.
And you're saying, what did the native side of things have to do with that healing?
Right.
What it did, the language brought me back to an elder. That elder kept repeating the same things to me every day, and it was kind of allow a slowness of life. And I'd never experienced that. I was, off quickly on my own in the Marines, and that's where I met my wife, and she's a Marine. And I don't know if you've ever met Marines, but we don't know how to slow down, and we hit our heads on stuff. and so that wasn't a great thing for me. I wish I never did that. That was my first disconnect. I'm not a killer. I'm not a violent human, but I have been violent. I have had violence on me. I have been in scenarios I wish I would have never done. I think the majority of those things come from the disconnect internally of where I was, what I was doing. I was always feeling like this fish out of water sensation, especially within the family dynamic. I
Right.
always felt, I mean, listen, the first time I drank alcohol to get drunk, I was 6 on my own to go
Oh my
play in the
God.
woods because I had seen what it had, I'm like, oh, that's what you have to do for this to go away.
Right.
I learned that quick,
Mm.
and so coming out of the last 2 years and all of the difficulty that everyone was having, especially with 2020, I was given the inner ability to have an open hand with every day. And the times I don't have an open hand with today only and not worrying about tomorrow, I suffer. I get stress. I get wound up. I get back into this business strategy mindset. But if I
Right.
walk into things open handedly and allowing the day and allowing presence of my inner self to feel wrong and to listen to that before my brain, and
Yeah.
to know that this thing is different than this thing, and to know, oh, I have to learn how to listen to my heart more than to my brain, because this is fight or flight, and this thing wants me to have joy,
Right.
only
Right.
joy and love. And if I'm outside of that, I feel terrible.
Yeah.
I've been in chronic pain. I've had all kinds of weird things happen, all kinds of experimental medical things I've tried, just throughout the years. And I healed almost completely from my shoulder thing. Half the surgery they thought they were going to have didn't need to happen. I spent
Yeah.
a lot of time meditating in the morning and in quiet and in Huklilan, just listening to nothing. Just listening. Huklila is just that listening, capital
Mm.
H, to the in between, the reading between the lines.
Mm.
And it's not accessible on the internet or from a phone from outer people. I have to slow down to find that myself. And it took me a minute to get enough quiet. And I'm such an extrovert, that was so hard for me because I have never experimented with silence before. Other
Mm.
than I've had suffering, but I've never just silenced and allowed myself to be.
Right.
And that was what healed me so quickly,
Yeah.
And I can get out of immense 9 out of 10 pain now. Usually, every time that happens, I can do that in about 20 minutes to an hour. Not
Mm.
every, and I have to do that sometimes 10 times a day.
Yeah.
But the next day usually isn't like that. And it's almost always because I've overlooked something in here. And like my wife did something, and like I feel a way, and I didn't say the thing, and I didn't reconcile with myself before I went to
Mm.
bed.
Yeah.
Look, we don't have to say everything is in our head or in our heart, because we have some awful things to say, or I do. But what we do have to be is honest about what that said to me. I said
Right.
this inside of myself. That was honest. Even if you're honestly going, I hate you, kid, and that's the crazy thing you felt.
Mm.
That I heard a therapist say that about her kid, and she goes, I remember the moment in the parking lot. I held their hands, and I just felt, I hate you, kids. I just
Wow.
hate you, children, because I feel so terrible. And this
Yeah.
person was in chronic pain. She never hated her children, right? We don't hate.
Right.
But in
Right.
the moment, we're just 5 years old when we're in 100%
Right.
suffering. So the quieting, the softening, and the slowing down, connecting and watching nature softened all those things.
Yeah. I love that so much. And I feel like, Darren, we're going to have you back, and we'll just dig into 800 more things. We'll have a
Yeah.
whole season 7 of the Breakthrough Show will be the Darren Show.
Oh my
That's
God.
what we'll do.
No.
You don't think you'd have enough to fill up a whole season? I do.
I never think I have a lot to say until the camera gets going, and then
That's it.
I have trouble shutting up.
It's magic. It's magic.
Glawashin Kaeda Shahwala. Wachum Yaksaman Bakwine. Wachum Guatan Noke. Glawashin Kaeda Shahwala. Shala Washla Lida Hista Elis. Isis Hikyatman Awinaguis. Lakan Aches Kʷakʷala es. Lakan Iges. Kahomas Ikada Nahwalaha Istehelis. Hana Nitnala. Glawashin Kaeda Shahwala. Kaeda Iklachans Olakala Nala Sutwa. Gwashlachgach Hida Yaganakwala. Yaksam Shlochwimas. Yaksam Bombs. Glawashin Kaeda Shahwala. Kaans Kୱାkʷalans Sasam. Kୱାkʷalans Nushna Yut. Kaomas Akstolans Taxola. Glacholan Glachwachlan Kaeda Shahwala. Wachum Yaksaman Bakwine. Wachum Guatanoke. Heam.
Well, I'm excited. So I have had 10 little fun quick fire questions that I've been asking every single guest that come on the show this season. So I'm excited to dig into that with you now.
All right.
So are you ready to go?
Hit it.
Let's do it. All right. Number 1, what's your morning beverage of choice?
Oh, coffee with cream.
Coffee with cream. All right. That was one of my goals last year, to find out how all my friends take their coffee. Now I know. Number 2, when are you most productive?
Midnight, baby.
Midnight.
12 to 3 a.m.
I'm snoring at that time.
I don't let myself do it often, but I can crank in the middle hours.
Number 3, which season is your favorite?
Summer.
Summer. Okay. Number 4, what's something you're learning right now? I think I know the answer to this, but.
Liqʷala. Listening and how to listen to other people.
Very good. Number 5, what were your best and worst subjects in school?
Best subject in school would be, man. I did well in acting and drama, and I was in some sort of the debate club. I was not a good student. I have a lot of trouble reading.
Yeah.
And school, I didn't do well. The thing I excelled in was not getting in trouble when I shouldn't have been. That was my only goal. My worst subject was certainly history, because I went to Catholic school and it wasn't taught. It was learn this, answer the questions. I could never do it.
Yeah.
Could never learn history and by numbers.
That was one of my worst subjects too. You're not alone in that. We're getting a history lesson on the Breakthrough Show this year, though. Number 6, what scares you?
I still have a lot of driving issues. That driving is hard for me. And gunfire. If I hear it even remotely close, I have a inner problem with that still.
Yeah. Number 7, we'll switch gears a little bit. Have you ever been in love?
I am still in love with Stace, my wonderful 19-year-old sweetheart.
I love it. Number 8, what inspires you?
What you and I are doing, learning my language and music is always inspiring.
I love it. Well, it sounds like you have a more leisurely life like I do, but I'll ask you anyway. How do you enjoy your downtime?
I calculate my downtime in like it's a job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a professional downtime person, as professional as I am at working. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. That's how I am too. And that shift to that kind of lifestyle has made such a huge difference in my life. Lastly, what culture do you deeply respect and or want to learn more about other than your own?
The Indian culture, not Native American, but
Mm.
India, and the Hindu culture has been very interesting. I have a new friend named Swarit, who is from there, from a mountain area, and just learning about their stuff and learning about how they operate in their tribal identities. So similar to a lot of First Nation stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
just love that.
I love it. I love it. You got through them all 10. And
Woo.
I love the answers. I've only met one person so far who's a morning person like me. So I'm in the minority, I feel like, this year. But Darren, thank you so much for being here with us today. And I would love to direct everybody over to your LinkedIn that you've shared. We're going to have that link in the comments so you can connect with Darren if you want. I know you do lives and stuff over there. Tell everybody how you hang out on LinkedIn.
Yeah, so we're just getting cranking with the new live series. D Roo's Workbench is just a lot of playing vinyl records, listening to interesting music, some interviews with some other musicians and producers, some hip hop artists and some rappers, professional harmonica player in Seattle coming up. And then my other series, Liqʷala, that is about what we're talking about today, Native culture, Native arts, and how to encourage those two things and intertwine them into our daily practice.
I love it. I love it. Well, we definitely need to tune in for that. We need more of Darren. We need the music. We need the stories and all. You're such a good storyteller, and I appreciate that about you. And I appreciate you being here today. Thank you so much for your time.
Gayla Casa, Jessica. Thank you.
All right, you guys, it's been another amazing episode today. I want to thank you all for watching or listening wherever you are in the world today. Don't forget to get logged in and signed up for our text community. You can text 256-685-7092. Just text the word breakthrough in the US, Canada, and Puerto Rico. If you are not on text messaging, you can also join us on Discord. Just go to bit.ly/Discord breakthrough, bit.ly/Discord breakthrough, and we'd love to hang out with you there as well. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and we'll be back next Friday for another episode of Season 6 of the Breakthrough Show, Breakthroughs Around the World. And until next time, I want to remind you to make joy a priority in your life and make every day a great day for a breakthrough. We'll see you next time.